Hey to all my friends out there on Facebook and YouTube. It's the Jace Man again. Wanted to make a video to tell you about this really cool interaction I had just a few minutes ago. Basically, I gave this gentleman a ride, and I do that all the time. You don't hear about it unless I think something is noteworthy or interesting about it that you need to find out about. For instance, like back in the winter when I gave the black gentleman a ride, and he was really taken aback by the fact that a white guy was giving him a ride. Totally surprised him that a white guy would give a black guy a ride. So, for whatever reason, he found that interesting. Um, Today's it tops that though, and there's something that can maybe be learned from today's topic. So I was on my way to Burger King to score some lunch, and although Burger King has not paid me to make this commercial or this video, by all means, if they want to send me a check, I will gladly cash it. So there's your cheap plug, Burger King. Feel free to make those checks out to the Jace Man. In any event, I was on my way to Burger King to get some lunch, and I saw this guy walking, just happened to be blind, and was going to stop and offer him a ride like I do everyone else, but then I thought, he might be offended. He might think that I'm just giving him a ride because he's blind, and I don't want that. So I drove a little bit, but then I started talking to myself, and I was like, Jace, if he wasn't blind, you would have stopped the car already and offered him a ride, so you can't treat this any differently. So I whipped the car back around, and I uh, slowed down as I got up to him, pulled the window down, and I said, hey man, are you walking because you want the exercise, or are you walking because you don't have a ride? And he's like, well, I'm more than capable of walking, but I sure wouldn't hate a ride. And so I was like, well, why don't I help you in the car and I take you where you need to go? So he's like, that'd be awesome. So I do. I get out of the car, I get him in the car, I ask him where he's going, and we start our journey. And so I'm like, so do you walk a lot? And he's like, yeah, every day. And I'm like, well, how far are you going? He said, well, I got about 2 miles to go, and I guess I've gone about a mile and a half so far. And I was like, wow. And I'm like, well, I guess you get rides a lot, right? And so he laughed, and he's like, because I'm blind? And I was like, yeah, I'd assume people stop, right? And he's like, no, you would think that, but really, it hardly ever happens. And I was like, really? That's interesting. And he's like, yeah, I think so too. And he's like, but I assume it's because people think that I'm too proud to accept one, so they don't even offer. And when he said that, I was like, well, you probably have a point, because in the interest of transparency here, to let you know, I almost didn't stop because you happen to be blind. I was like, I give rides to people all the time, and I don't think anything of it. But when I saw you, I was like, hey, he probably won't even take one because he's blind. He's just going to think that I'm showing him pity or whatever, something like that. And he's like, well, I'm glad that you did stop, and it's nice to know that people don't think that handicapable means that I'm incapable of accepting a helping hand every once in a while. And I was like, well, you just don't know how people are going to react. And he said, well, there's probably some blind, and he used some words that I'm not going to say out there, but he basically meant stubborn people who are too good to accept help, who might be offended. But he said that he was grateful that I stopped, and I told him that I was grateful for the opportunity, and I was glad that I didn't sit there and argue with myself about it too long, that I actually came back and saw if he needed a ride. So in the end, we exchanged names. Actually, told him what street I lived on. Now I knew where he lived, and who knows? Maybe I made a new friend today. So just wanted to let you know about that, and I thought it was pretty interesting. So there you guys go.